Since their 2008 release of Iron Man, Marvel Studios have successfully turned the previously niche and not so well acclaimed genre of films based on comics into a genre which continually produces box office hits. In doing so, Marvel Studios created arguably the most successful and engaging entertainment franchise of the 21st century with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, setting several records along the way. Although not even in the top 10 of highest-grossing Marvel movies, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 certainly earns its place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a major box office success. Volume 1 was the highest-grossing film in the US domestic box office and placed third worldwide for 2014, bringing in over $770 million for the studio. Based on the comic run written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, Guardians of the Galaxy tells the story of five social rejects turning into a heroic team. Designated as the leader, Peter Quill, played by Chris Pratt, was kidnapped from Earth at a young age by a group of Ravagers after witnessing his mother's passing from cancer. Peter became one of the Ravagers, although with a strong sense of independence and desire to distance himself from them. After stealing an orb for himself that the Ravagers were planning to steal, Peter was exiled and a bounty was placed on his head. Rocket and Groot are a duo of bounty hunters and are both genetically engineered humanoids, with Rocket being a raccoon and Groot being a tree. Rocket and Groot are introduced to the audience when trying to claim a bounty on Peter on the planet Xandar, capital of the Nova Empire, while Peter was attempting to sell his stolen orb. Gamora is similarly introduced to the audience on Xandar, trying to seduce Peter to steal the orb for herself. She is the daughter of Thanos and was loaned as a mercenary to the antagonist of the movie, Ronan. All four of the main characters introduced to this point end up in a brawl and are all arrested and sent to a space prison island. It's in the prison that the audience and our main characters are introduced to Drax, who we immediately discover wants to seek vengeance against Gamora and Ronan. Ronan had murdered Drax's family, resulting in Drax going on a rampage and ultimately being imprisoned. While Drax initially attempted to kill Gamora, the other Guardians talk him out of it, and they become a team with the common goal of thwarting Ronan. After the team break out of prison, they attempt to sell the orb and the Power Stone within to an eccentric collector. However, after realizing how powerful the Power Stone truly is, the Guardians realize that they must protect it from Ronan and give the stone to the Nova Empire, who they believe to be responsible enough to hold it. On the way to Xandar, the Power Stone is lost to Ronan, whose goal is to destroy the Novas, and the Guardians are ultimately forced to side with the Ravagers and eventually the Novas. Ultimately, the team is successful, the Guardians are praised, and the Nova are left with secure keeping of the Power Stone. While many love Guardians of the Galaxy for its plot and witty humor, there is also a strong love for its nostalgic soundtrack, featuring numerous hits of decades past. As the first song in the soundtrack, I'm Not in Love by 10cc reels the audience into the scene through the effect of diegesis. While the music is initially overpowering, it is toned back to reveal that the source of the music is young Peter's music player, gifted to him by his mother. Having this effect introduced early into the film is critical in establishing the role the soundtrack plays in the film. The scene establishes the precedent of Peter's attachment to music as a somber emotional connection to his mother. After the passing of his mother, the film fast-forwards to present-day Peter on his way to steal the orb. In that scene, Peter plays Come and Get Your Love by Redbone and actively sings along, even grabbing one of the native lizards and holding it like a microphone while dancing his way to the orb. Peter's behavior along with the music reveals to the audience that, despite the somber tone of the previous scene, Peter has ended up with a very quirky and likable personality. While the film's music consistently occurs with diegetic effects, sometimes music exists purely to establish mood, rather than telling its own story. For example, the Raspberries' Go All the Way plays through the ship's speakers as Peter escapes with the orb, but doesn't serve much more purpose than lightening the mood after a fight scene. Likely one of the most memorable songs in the film, Blue Swede's Hooked on a Feeling is played as the prison guards search through the Guardians' belongings after the team is imprisoned. Peter, realizing that the guards are playing with the cassette that holds so much emotional value to him, attempts to fight the guard to prevent him from damaging the cassette. However, Peter is immediately overpowered and tased by the guard, leading to the first instance of diegetic withdrawal in the film. When Peter is tased by the guards, the music is no longer being provided by the world of the movie, and so is no longer diegetic, but continues playing over a montage of the team being inducted into the prison. This trend of diegetic entry and withdrawal occurs throughout the film, often resulting in significant character development, like with Fooled Around and Fell in Love by Elvin Bishop. Bishop's song plays while the team are waiting for the orb's buyer. Peter and Gamora are separated from the group, and in an attempt to romance Gamora, Peter introduces her to his music and allows her to listen while he attempts to dance with her and eventually kiss her as she is entranced by the song. While still not giving in to Peter's attempts at romance, Gamora, originally introduced to the audience as a stone-cold manipulative mercenary, begins to show more complex emotions with this scene and reveals that she is not as opposed to Peter's ways as she originally let on. Ultimately, the scene ends with Gamora having Peter restrained with a knife to his neck, but the progress is clearly revealed to the audience through the music, and further music will have recurring indications of Peter and Gamora's growing relationship. At the climax of the film, the music returns to being integral to the central plot. After the Guardians defeated Ronin's army, they still had to defeat Ronin, who still had control of the Power Stone. In an otherwise nearly silent scene following the bulk of the violence, the camera pans to Peter's cassette player, and the audience begins to experience "Ooh, Child" by the Five Stairsteps, making a diegetic entrance. Ronin held all of the power, but Peter's quirky personality previously established with Come and Get Your Love makes a return as Peter distracts Ronin while singing and dancing along to Ooh, Child, allowing the team to surprise and overpower Ronin and allowing Peter to seize the stone. Finally, the film concludes with the Guardians established as more than a team and effectively becoming a family, with Peter and Gamora becoming romantic partners leading the family. Beginning by playing diegetically on Peter's ship, Marvin Gaye's Ain't No Mountain High Enough pans into diegetic withdrawal as the film provides one last montage, giving the audience a fulfilling ending for all of the major characters. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is one of few prime examples of diegetic music within films of the last decade, joining the likes of critically acclaimed movies such as Baby Driver. However, Volume 1 goes beyond the basic theory of diegetic music and employs the academically researched ideas of diegetic withdrawal and entry, which can be incredibly difficult to pull off effectively. As such, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 is a movie deserving of both recreational entertainment and academic examination.